Assalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Assalamu wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi alladhi kana mawjudan qabla huduthi al-ashya wa yabqa ba'da fana'i al-ashya tafarrada bil awwaliyyati wal qidam. ووسم كل شيء ما عداه بالفناء والعدم كما قال عز شانه كل شيء هالك إلا وجهه وكل نفس ذائقة الموت وقال كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام سبحان من لا يخفى عليه اختلاف النيات ولا يعزب عنه معاصي العباد في الخلوات سبحان الله الذي منه خليقة العباد وإليه المعاد فمن يعمل مثقال ذرة خيرا يرى ومن يعمل مثقال ذرة شرا يرى نشهد أن لا إله إلا هو الملك الذي لا ينازع في ملكه ولا يضاد في حكمه يعذب من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء ويرحم من يشاء بما يشاء كيف يشاء تعذيبه المسيئين عدل وعفو تفضل الحمد لله الذي لا يبلغ مدحته القائلون ولا يحصي نعماءه العادون ولا يؤدي حقه المجتهدون والحمد لله على رسول المسدد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أما بعد فقد قال الله سبحانه تبارك وتعالى في كتاب المجيد والفرقان الحميد وقوله الحق بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وجعلنا منهم أئمة يهدون بأمرنا لما صبروا وكانوا بآياتنا يوقنون آمنا بالله صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات على محمد اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Surah 32 ayat number 24 says, and we appointed from amongst them, that is amongst the people, leaders, imams, giving guidance under our command, as they were steadfast with patience and continued to have faith in our signs. To carry on the message of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala appointed imams, and one of the qualities amongst many others is that the imams have a lot of patience and they have absolute trust and conviction in the signs and the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the appointment of the imams is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is not a human appointment. It is not appointed by you and I or a shura basis. No, it is by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because they are the ones that are carrying on the work of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Today is the 25th of Muharram, which is the death anniversary of our fourth Imam, Imam Ali Zainul Abidin alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. He is known amongst many other titles as Sayyidus Sabirin, the prince of those who bore with patience, who were patient. The impression that we sometimes get or people try to create is that the Imam was very passive. He stayed behind and did not do much, so to speak, except weep, so to speak. But no, today I want to share with you some thoughts of how the Imam's jihad was, to get an understanding. If I tell you lots of things, you won't remember, so I'm just going to focus on one thing very important up there. Ayatollah Khamenei rightly points out that the oppressed, silenced and passive image that they have fabricated of Imam Sajjad, he says the people have fabricated this image that he was oppressed, he was silenced, and he was very passive, stayed on the side, did not do much, absolutely contradicts the reality of his character. The real image of Imam Sajjad alayhi salam is the image of a tireless, assertive, and perseverant hero who knows the ways very precisely, choosing the right one and moving through them to obtain his goals. He does not become tired, he tires the enemy. That was the outcome. The enemy was finally defeated. There would be no Shi'ism, the original Islam today, were it not for Imam Sajjad alayhi salam. He is an example of the power of dua when one is going through the roughest patch in his life. His du'as are still illuminating the path for millions seeking their way through life. There is no challenge one is facing that is not addressed by Imam Sajjad alayhi salam in all his du'as, right? An imam is a mujahid at a very high level. We are all supposed to be mujahids, one who struggle, do jihad. Jihad means struggle, right? Struggle in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Struggle against yourself, struggle against all the external sources to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. An imam is a mujahid at the highest level. However, jihad has many dimensions. We tend to think of jihad only as jihad bis-sayf, the jihad of the sword. No. Jihad has many, many dimensions. Jihad bis-sayf is one. Jihad bil-lisan is another one. Jihad through your tongue. Jihad through ilm, through your knowledge. Jihad bil-akhlaq, your akhlaq, right? Jihad against deviation, those that bring bid'ah in there and try to move the people away from the right message of the Prophet and the Imams, right? So there is all different types of jihad. And today I want to discuss this one jihad against deviation that the Imam instituted and how he did it under the circumstances that he found himself in. Remember, Imam has to deliver his message regardless of the circumstances he finds himself in. Whether it is in the masjid, whether it is on the mimbar, whether it is in the prison, whether it is on the battlefield, anywhere he finds himself, he has to deliver his message. There was a deviation initiated by, or a bid'ah initiated by the Banu Umayyah, especially Abdul Malik bin Marwan. Just to bring you and for the younger ones so that they are aware, the Imams, the rulers that the Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam had to go navigate his life through, the first one was of course Yazid, who was the ruler for 4 years. Then Muawiyah bin Yazid, Yazid's son, who ruled only for 6 months before he was killed, because when he was appointed as the Caliph after the death of his father, Yazid, he gets up on the mimbar and says, "O people, this Khilafat is tainted by the blood of the Ahlul Bayt, of the innocent ones. I want nothing to do with it. I want nothing to do with this one." And they say that after he got stepped down from the mimbar, the Banu Umayyah killed him because they could not let the power move away from themselves. After him was Marwan bin Hakam. So Yazid, Muawiyah bin Yazid, then Marwan bin Hakam. Who is this Marwan bin Hakam? He was the son-in-law of the third Khalifa Uthman. He was the one on the 22nd or the 23rd of Rajab, where in Medina, where Imam Hussein alayhi salam was called in the palace of Walid to say that Yazid has been killed, Yazid has died, and my job now is to ask you for the bay'ah. And Imam says matters of bay'ah need to be talked in the masjid amongst the people, not in private in the middle of the night. Right? And so Walid said, okay, we will talk about it tomorrow morning. And there was a person standing next to him and says, "Oh Walid, if you let Hussein go, you will never find him. Take his bayat or take his head." That's where Imam Hussein alayhi salam raised his voice and the Bani Hashim entered there, and that was Walid. That was Marwan. And he had lots of roles to play. So he becomes the third Khalifa, the Khalifa there after Muawiyah bin Yazid. When he passes away, Abdul Malik bin Marwan, his son, becomes the Khalifa. Marwan bin Hakam ruled for 1 year. And then Abdul Malik bin Marwan for 21 years. And then when he died, 3 of his sons, one after the other. Al-Walid is the first one, and there were 2 other sons that were there. So Imam had to navigate through all these up there. There were 3 individuals who refused to do the bay'ah of Yazid, and who Muawiyah had warned his son Yazid that these three will never do bay'ah for you, and this is how you deal with them. First one was Imam Hussein alayhi salam. He told him, he says he will never do bay'ah of yours. He has the blood of his father flowing through his veins, he will never do your bay'ah, right? And he had no solution for what to do with Imam Hussein. The second one is Abdullah bin Zubair, right? And Abdullah bin Zubair, he is the son of Zubair. Zubair is who? He was the one who stood against Imam Ali alayhi salam in the battle of Jamal, right? He is the cousin of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, right? Zubair himself was the cousin of Imam Ali alayhi salam. He was the Pupi's son, right? So he and his son Abdullah bin Zubair. So when Abdullah bin Zubair refused, he left Medina and went to Mecca, and he started creating his own power base in Mecca and around Mecca. And he controlled part of Iraq also during the uprising of Mukhtar al-Thaqafi. Then was Abdullah bin Umar, and Muawiyah said, you pressurize him and he will give in. Right? So now, Imam Hussein was killed. Abdullah bin Zubair is already in Mecca. He has established his kingdom, his small mini khilafat within the khilafat, so to speak. Now Abdul Malik bin Marwan becomes the Caliph of Sham. Now when you talk of Sham, Sham today we understand as only Damascus or Syria as we understand. Those days Sham included Jordan, Palestine, Lebanon and Egypt. That was Sham. So there was a very pretty big territory. He did not want people to go to Mecca for Hajj to be influenced by Abdullah bin Zubair. Now, you know, every year the Muslims went for Hajj into Mecca. And Abdullah bin Zubair was in control there. So Abdul Malik bin Marwan was in control of Sham, but he did not have the two prized cities to be in total control, and those was Mecca and Medina. That were not under his control. The rest of the empire was under his control. These two were not under his control. And these were being controlled by Abdullah bin Zubair. And he wanted to establish his own control. So what did he do? He started a bid'ah, an innovation, to say that, you know, you don't need to go to Mecca for Hajj. You go to Jerusalem for Hajj. Now, just imagine the repercussions of what would have happened today that if Imam Zainul Abidin had not stood up and fought this bid'ah, and how he fought this one. Today, the Muslims would have been divided. Muslims would have been going for Hajj to Jerusalem, and Muslims would have been going to Mecca for Hajj also. And then, of course, there are the spin doctors who would have made up the stories to say, yeah, it is okay, and so on and so forth, right? So now look at what happened after that. So what he did is he ordered the building of the Dome of the Rock, the golden rock, the Qubbat as-Sakhra. You know, when you look in the pictures of Jerusalem, you see the golden dome. And we think that is Masjid al-Aqsa. That is not Masjid al-Aqsa. Yet, that is Qubbat as-Sakhra. This was built by Abdul Malik bin Marwan. The masjid is next to it. So this one is actually built by him up there. And he told people that now you can go for Hajj to Jerusalem. And people were going. And you know the people of Sham, right? The people of Syria were oblivious. Whatever the Khalifa told them, they were aware. Just like you remember during two things, during the Battle of Siffin, when Muawiyah was going to go towards Siffin, it was a Wednesday, and the people of Sham said, oh, Muawiyah, can we wait till Friday after Jummah, and then we will leave to go for Siffin. And Muawiyah says, you want to pray Jummah? No problem, we'll pray on Wednesday. So they prayed Jummah on Wednesday, right? 1. 2, when Imam Ali alayhi salam was assassinated by Ibn Muljam in Kufa, in the masjid of Kufa, and the news reached Sham, the people asked, what was Ali doing in the masjid? So this was the impression that was created against Imam Ali alayhi salam and against the Ahlul Bayt by Muawiyah and his henchmen, and the people of Sham bought it hook, line, and sinker. They were not aware, right? Anyway, I don't want to digress. There is so much to say, but I'll just go very quickly. So who was this Abdul Malik bin Marwan? Just so you understand. When people came to greet him as a Caliph, He was seated in, some say in the masjid, some say in the palace, wherever it was. He was reading the Quran. When they told him, your father has passed away, now you are the Caliph, come and take the bay'ah, he closes the Quran and says, Firaqum bayni wa baynakum. Today there is a separation between you and me. He's telling the Quran, today you and I are no longer friends, so to speak, right? You are on your own, I am on my own. He comes up and makes his first speech. I will not be a weak Caliph like Uthman or a diplomatic one like Muawiyah, right? But a strong one. By Allah, no one from you will tell me, no one from you will advise me about taqwa of Allah, otherwise I will kill him. Don't talk to me about taqwa, don't talk to me about all these things. I will do what I think is right, and I'll otherwise kill you. So now, see this picture of who the Caliph is. See the bid'ah that he has started, right? Look at the pressure that Imam Zainul Abidin alayhi salam is under, right? Because he's constantly being monitored. And how does he deliver and do his duty of breaking this bid'ah? First of all is, of course, through the ways of azadari, of course, right? That we all know about. When your father has been and your family has been brutally killed in Karbala, right? And you weep about it, the people come around you. Right? So that was one way of doing it. The other one was the du'as that we all know in Saif Sajjadiyah, right? But as far as this bid'ah is concerned, what did Imam start doing? He started talking about the importance of Hajj and Makkah. He started explaining. He said, a person, and he's quoting now a hadith from the Prophet. So now he's not saying something different. He's talking what is already known, and he's re-emphasizing it. So you can't really go after him and say, why are you saying something different, right? So it's very subtle message, but this is what he starts talking about. Emphasizing the importance of Hajj and the importance of the city of Makkah. A person who spends the night in Makkah just sleeping is equal to the status of a shaheed in another place. Look at this hadith, and this is for you and I to ponder also, right? For those of us who are sometimes reluctant to go for Hajj, and we say, oh, we will go next year, we will go next year, we will go next year, or I will go when I will be old. When do you become old? When do you go? Right? So when becomes wajib, go. Like so many, unfortunately, were willing to go. For the last 2 years, they have not been able to go. Who knew about the pandemic? So whenever the opportunity presents itself, go. Don't think about it. This is a fard. Go and do what you are supposed to do. A person does khitma of Quran, khatmul Quran in Makkah. He will not die, but he will have the vision of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You will see the Prophet in your dream if you do khitma al-Quran in Makkah. Doing one tasbih in Makkah is equal in thawab to donate the wealth of Iraq in charity. It's mind-boggling, huh? If you think about it, it is mind-boggling what Imam is saying. A person who spends his day in Makkah eating, his thawab is equal to someone fasting elsewhere. So to be in Makkah and to be at Hajj time and to do all these things, the status is so high, it is unbelievable, right? So now the people are waking up to this idea and saying, wow, we were not quite aware, or we forgot about these matters, right? And many more. So the importance of Makkah was being established. Then Imam goes on and says, a Haji who comes from Makkah brings about an aura of barakat, and those who visit that Hujjaj will share in this aura of barakat. You know, when somebody walks in, has applied a lot of perfume, he can walk through up there and walk up here. When you pass through there, you know. Especially if he has a certain perfume that you are aware of, or you can smell, and you know he applies only that perfume and he walks through there, you know that person is already here. You haven't seen him, but by the smell of the perfume you have. So same idea up here, when a Haji comes back, he brings this barakat, these blessings with him. So next time Inayat comes back from Hajj, we all make a point of going to visit with him, right? So that we can share in the barakat out there, including the other Hujjaj also. Your health will become better if you go for Hajj. Your sustenance, your rizq will increase. Necessities for your families will be taken care of. You will get a fresh start. Your account is cleared, is clean. You are becoming, Allah is giving you a fresh start. He did not stop with words only. It's easy to speak, right? But he put it through action. He went for Hajj more than 20 times, riding on a camel. Many times he went barefoot, always to Makkah, never to Jerusalem. So words were there, actions were there. Now, walking from Makkah to Medina is walking from Toronto to Montreal. All right, just understand that's the distance. It's over 300 miles out there. So it is walking so it takes a number of days. Imam did that. Many scholars, the Hufadha al-Quran, would wait for the Imam to start his journey so they could join him during this trip. All those people, after the Hajj was over, did not leave Makkah until they got news that Ali Zainul Abidin was leaving, and he would leave, and they would wait for him to leave and join him. And they would go with him to a certain extent, as far as they possibly could go, until a point come where they had to separate and go in different ways, right? Some went to Yemen, some went to Sham, some went to Iraq, somewhere, wherever they were going. So when the exit point came, that's when people separated. It is reported that sometimes the Imam's Kafila had 1,000 extra riders who were joining the Imam on his return back to Medina. Right? This was the role that Imam played. The government could not stop it, because what the Imam was saying was based on the Quran and the Sunnah. So it was not something that the Imam was creating, and this way he broke that bid'ah completely. This was his jihad. This was his jihad, and this is how he managed to preserve Makkah as the place for Hajj, not Jerusalem. Right? Today, if ever you get a chance to go to Jerusalem, you will see in that masjid out there that it is written that it is built. I've talked to some people who have been there and have read the inscription that says that this was built by Abdul Malik bin Marwan up there. So Makkah is the place to go for Hajj. But in every situation, there are people who are, shall we say, in our terms, wise guys, right? So there is a man called Ibad al-Basri, was on the journey with Imam to Hajj. He taunts the Imam, "You have abandoned the jihad and the difficulties of jihad and have adopted Hajj, which is easy." Then he quotes the ayat of the Quran in Surah Tawbah, Surah number 9, ayat number 111, in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Inna Allah ashtara min al-mu'minina anfusahum wa amwalahum bi anna lahumul jannah yuqatiluna fi sabilillah fayaqtuluna wa yuqtalun wa'adan alayhi haqqan fit tawrati wal injil wal Quran wa man awfa bi ahdihi min Allah fastabshiru bi bay'ikum alladhi bay'atum bih وَذَلِكَ هُوَ الْفَوْزُ الْعَظِيمُ. Verily Allah has purchased of the believers themselves and their properties, for theirs in return is the garden of paradise. They fight in his cause and slay and are slain. A promise binding on him in truth through the law, the Bible and the Quran. And who is more faithful to his covenant than Allah? Then rejoice in the bargain which you have concluded. That is the achievement supreme. So he's using this ayat to say, Imam, that you should be doing jihad. What are you doing only Hajj only there? And Imam says, why did you stop only at this ayat? Read the next ayat. You are just reading one ayat. Read the next ayat, which says immediately, number 112, Surah 9, ayat number 112, التائبون العابدون الحامدون السائحون الراكعون الساجدون الآمرون بالمعروف وناهون عن المنكر والحافظون لحدود الله وبشر المؤمنين. Those that turn to Allah in repentant, that worship Him and praise Him, who fast, who bow down and prostrate themselves in prayer, that enjoin good and forbid evil, do amra bil ma'ruf and nahi anil munkar, and observe the limit set by Allah, these do rejoice. So proclaim the glad tidings to the believers. Imam turns to him and says, when I find people like this, with these qualities, I will stand up for jihad be safe. Until such time that I find the people like that, there is no point in standing up there, right? So this is one important lesson that we can learn, that the Imam stopped the biggest fitna, the biggest bid'ah that was started through his own unique way in which he preserved the status of Makkah. Finally, just so that we understand, in the khutbah of Sham, Imam talks to the people and to Yazid out there when he delivered the khutbah, and he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has blessed us, the Ahlul Bayt, with 6 qualities. With 6 qualities. One is knowledge, ilm. Nobody has knowledge like we do. 2, forbearance, that we have sabr. Generosity, there is nobody as generous as we are. Eloquence, balaghat, right? That we speak, when we speak, the message gets through. We are absolutely the best speakers that can be. Bravery, the valor that we have, the best warriors that we can be. And the last one is friendship in the hearts of believers is present with us. You and I, we have never seen the Imam, but we would be willing to sacrifice everything for them. This is the rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you and I can create this in our children, that whatever happens in life, don't lose connection with Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, then I think that is the best tabligh that we can do. That is the best tabligh that we can do. Regardless, life throws you ups and downs. Yes, it does. And sometimes people slip away. But when we connect with Muhammad and Ali Muhammad, even if we slip up, that hand is always open. We just have to extend our hand and they will pull us back. Right? Very, very important. And finally, there is one hadith from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. It's recorded in Mizan al-Hikmah, page 77, hadith 441. On the day of Qiyamah, a caller will call. On the day of Qiyamah, a munadi will call, a caller will call, Aina Zainul Abidin? Where is the adornment of worshippers, Zainul Abidin? And the Prophet goes on, and it is as if I am looking at my son Ali bin al-Hussein bin Ali bin Abi Talib emerging between the rows and coming to where the caller is calling. So the status of Imam Zainul Abidin is not ordinary. Today we are able to sit here and do what we are able to do and practice that is because of him. And how he behaved and how he acted to ensure that the madhab of Shiaism is stayed alive, so that it can be carried on from generation to generation till the time of the 12th Imam, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and keep us on the path of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad till our last breath. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inspire us to ensure that this message and the love of Ahlul Bayt, that is a God-given gift and a rahmah and a barakah for us, is given to our children and our progeny so that they may remain on the right path, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Alhamdulillah, alhamdulillahi hamdan kathira. Alhamdulillahi alladhi hadana lihadha wa ma kunna linahtadiya lawla an hadana Allah. لقد جاءت رسل ربنا بالحق والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين خاتم النبيين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى إمام المسلمين وقائد الغر المحجلين أمير المؤمنين علي بن أبي طالب صلوات الله عليه وآله. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى سيدة نساء العالمين وبضعة خاتم النبيين سيدتنا فاطمة بنت رسول الله صلوات الله عليها. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى الحسن المجتبى. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد والحسين الشهيد بكربلاء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلي بن الحسين ومحمد بن علي وجعفر بن محمد وموسى بن جعفر وعلي بن موسى ومحمد بن علي وعلي بن محمد والحسن بن علي عليهم الصلاة والسلام. اللهم صل على مولانا صاحب الزمان. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. ما هي آثار البدع والطغيان هادمي أبنية الشرك والنفاق حاصد فروع البغي والشقاق صلوات الله وسلامه عليه وعلى آباء الكرام ما اتصل الليالي والأيام. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه واقل ناظرنا بنظرة منا إليه واجعلنا من المستشهدين بين يديه وتفضل على أمرائنا المؤمنين بمزيد التوفيقات وازدياد الإقبال وعلو الدرجات. اللهم افعل بنا ما أنت أهل ولا تفعل بنا ما نحن أهل بجاه محمد وآله المعصومين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Very quickly in this second khutbah, it is election time again. I don't want to take up a lot of your time. First and foremost, we as Muslims must thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the new blessings of a new home, which is our home now, Canada. For many of us who were the first immigrants, this is our adopted home. And to our children and grandchildren, this is home. Many of us who have been here for 5 years or more and have gone back to our ancestral homes know that the people back there have moved on with their lives. And we cannot fit back in that society. And now Canada becomes home both physically and mentally also. However, we as Muslims often complain that no one is there to listen to our issues and that we are branded negatively by the media and we are constantly on the defensive. We always look wistfully at the other communities, for example, the Sikh community, the Jewish community, and are amazed at their success and their ability to send members to the municipal, provincial, and federal governments. Their voices and concerns are heard. How do they do it? The first and foremost thing is that they accept Canada is their home. Secondly, they understand that for them to make their home better, they have to understand the system and participate in it. They have understood that this system is a democratic system where everyone has a vote. So if everyone of age can vote, this means they register themselves to vote. They make sure that they vote, and now they are confident that they can get their vote out. They start organizing themselves and proposing candidates. They do not stop there. They participate and volunteer in schools, community functions, and are involved in all aspects of the general society. They do not keep themselves to themselves. They are visible in form, words, and action. You can see them everywhere. Next, when election time comes, you will see every politician knocking on their door seeking their vote. We as Muslims can do exactly the same, if not better. Currently, there are approximately, and these are a bit old statistics, but just to get you a point across, there are roughly 1 million Muslims in Canada, approximately 3%. Statistics Canada estimates that by 2030 rather, which is about 9 years from now, the Muslim population will be about 10%, making the Muslims one of the largest voting base in the country. Most Muslims reside in urban areas, that is in the cities. There are several ridings where the Muslim population is greater than 10%. According to one study, there are 15 ridings in Ontario where Muslims represent more than 10% of the vote. On a federal level, this number is 23 ridings. In 15 ridings on a federal level, on not the last election, the previous election, the margin victory for the MP who was then sitting in Ottawa was less than the Muslim population. So that by the number of votes that they won, it was less than the Muslim population. In other words, if Muslims had voted, we could have sent another person to Ottawa instead of the present one. One candidate lost only by 300 votes. We have 113 federal ridings where the Muslim population is larger than the projected margin of victory. This means we can make a difference. So what am I saying? All I am saying is that your and my vote counts, and it is incumbent upon us and all eligible persons in our household to vote. We can make a difference. From a religious point of view, we all know the importance of Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar, enjoining good and forbidding evil. A society where Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahi anil Munkar ceases to exist or goes underground, this society will cease to prosper and will stagnate. How can we do this on an up-country scale and make our country better if we do not participate in the process? You remember the famous statement of Imam Hussein alayhi salam after Dhuhr when he met Hur on the 1st of Muharram. He quoted the statement of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam where the Prophet says, "Whoever sees a tyrant ruler and they do nothing to stop him, Allah's punishment will fall on them too." Right? So there is very important that we participate. Finally, with the way things are going and the way that our Islam is being hijacked by fringe elements, it is of utmost importance that we all vote. You know what is happening in Yemen, you know what is happening in Afghanistan, you know what is happening in Burma, you know what is happening in Xinjiang in China, and so many other places out there. Voting for a candidate does not mean that we have to agree with all the viewpoints of the candidate. But we are informed about the positions of the candidates and we vote for the candidate that is close to our position. When we come out and vote, the politicians will get serious about us and start paying attention to what we are saying, and our issues will be taken into account. They keep tabs on who has voted and what community that person belongs to. If we want to make a difference, we must vote. It is an obligation upon us. And do not stop at only voting. Get involved in your local communities. Volunteer your time and let the people know that we as Muslims love this country as much as any other Canadian. And we are here to stay, and we are here to call ourselves Canadian Muslims or Muslim Canadians, whatever you wish, right? We are here, we're going nowhere. So let's make sure that we are part of the system. So the message today is, think positively, think of what is being said, make sure that on the day of the voting you go out and vote. And take everyone within your family to vote. And if there is anybody in your neighborhood that is not able to get to the polling station for whatever reason and needs some help from you, then do the necessary, get the vote out. And inshallah, if not within our lifetime, in the next generation or so, there will be people from within this community who inshallah will be holding positions of honor within the government and will be able to influence and get the people to think of our issues also. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this auspicious day of the day of Jummah and the wafat of our fourth Imam grant us the barakat to remain on the right path, the path of Muhammad and Ali Muhammad until our last breath. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal asr innal insana lafi khusr illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil haqq wa tawasaw bis sabr. Allahumma salli ala